Sega has officially trademarked the name Sonic Frontiers. What does this mean? Let's talk about it. Hello Procrastinator, Sam here, and today we have official news that Sega has officially trademarked the name Sonic Frontiers. And I've seen a lot of people discussing this online, so I did want to give my 2 cents on this whole thing. First off, I want to say that, everything we talked about regarding Sonic Rangers does not mean that all that stuff is faked. Sonic Rangers was just a working title, like Sonic Wars was for Sonic Forces. And I want to say right out of the gate, I think Sonic Frontiers is a way better name. I mentioned this on Twitter. I like that name so much. Every time I heard Sonic Rangers, I always just pictured Sonic in a Rangers suit. I didn't like the thought of that. But Sonic Frontiers, it sounds more in line with what this game is set to be. We know this game is going to be an open world Sonic game, and Frontiers I think is perfect for that. So I like this name a lot better than Rangers. And the main reason I'm making this video is not to discuss the name Sonic Frontiers for the next 10 minutes. It's for me to talk about what this means now that we know that this is confirmed. You guys already know my thoughts of leaks on this channel and me covering leaks on this channel. I have a set rule where I won't cover leak unless it's common knowledge, or if I know it is 100% accurate, if I have a reason to believe it is going to be legit. And obviously all the stuff I talk about in this video isn't 100%, but there's always room to change. This game is not set to release until 2022, so there's always room for it to change. The game could probably be delayed to 2023 even, so there's room for it to change, and some of the stuff may not be 100% true, but we have no way of knowing, but we can only talk about the things that make sense and fall in line regarding the timeline of everything. And what I mean by that is, now that we know the name is officially going to be Sonic Frontiers, we can look back at people mentioning the name Sonic Frontiers since they have some legitimacy and see what they had to say in the past. And one of these sources I actually want to really talk about is from Daki. He is one of the members from Tails channel, but I do want to stress that this information or this video he made is not in collaboration with Tails channel. This is just something he wanted to do on his own. But because he is part of Tails channel, and Tails channel is a really trusted source in the community, people usually associate the two, and obviously reason to be. I think Daki is 100% correct here. I have no reason to doubt him, and he also has no reason to doubt his sources regarding this video. He actually made a really good 15-minute video regarding all information that he knows about for Sonic 2022. He knows this information because he has a source that apparently plays tested the game Sonic Rangers, aka Sonic Frontiers. People will probably mention, why should we trust this video from Daki? Well, he's actually one of the first people to name drop the name Sonic Frontiers. That was actually over a month ago on October 12th. That is way before many of the other leakers started name dropping Sonic Frontiers in the community. So yes, I do trust Daki here. So yes, everything I will be talking about will be coming from Daki's video, which will be linked in the description. So special thanks to Daki for allowing me to talk about this, which I actually want to mention something real quick. I ended up messaging Daki to get the transcript of the video, so that way, I could talk about what he talked about on my video. And he was shocked that I did that because apparently, even though I'm 2 weeks late to this stuff to make a video on this, I'm the first and only Sonic tuber to ask him for consent. So before I jump in, Sonic tubers, can you please do the bare minimum and ask for permission before you use something from other people's videos, please? I'm sorry, that rubbed me the wrong way when I heard about that. That's absolutely ridiculous. I am 2 weeks late and I'm the first and only Sonic tuber to ask for permission. That's ridiculous. First question is, how did it start? The source says, demo starts with the title screen saying Sonic Rangers working title, with a beautiful panoramic view of the world in the background. Orchestral music playing, don't recognize the theme. And you're given the choice between English and Japanese text. How far along do you think it is? Source, pretty far along. It's still got a lot of jank in it though. Next year is still not certain. Which is something I even mentioned way back when they said it was going to be coming out in 2022. I feel like a lot of Sonic games get delayed, which is a good thing. I am happy they are doing that. They delay the games as far as they think it needs to. But I do have a feeling, because of the grand scope of this game and how big it's sounding, a lot of times with open world games, the original release date from the reveal trailer is not usually the case. So I do believe if this game was set to release in 2022, it's probably going to get delayed to 2023 at some point. That's just my prediction. How did the game look visually? Source, stunning. It was on a high PC that was output to an LCD, but I was very much impressed. There is a problem though. It got Sonic 06 vibes, to be honest. As in, Sonic does not fit into the environment he's in at all. The enemies look straight out of Breath of the Wild and Dark Souls. It's rather jarring. And this is something that doesn't surprise me. I feel like Sonic Team and Sega has done this stuff in the past. And regarding Sonic 06's art direction, I do see that. I am a fan of Sonic 06. You guys already know this. I don't exactly hate the game as much as other people do. I do have gripes with the game, obviously. I don't think it's a perfect game at all. But I do agree that I was not the biggest fan of the art direction in 06. I was more so a fan of the art direction they chose with Unleashed and how the humans were handled. But yeah, I do see what they're talking about regarding, how Sonic was fit into the world in 06. And this tells me right away that this source is familiar with the Sonic games and the Sonic community, and I'm actually really happy about that. So this way we could get really good information and good analogies from this source, so we get a better job at visualizing what he's talking about. But regarding this for Frontiers, it's not a deal breaker. Obviously, we've had games that did this before, and I know some people actually like it. So it's not a deal breaker, but it is something that is a bit strange to think that Sega would do that again. But again, it's not a big problem to me. Regarding the enemies, though, it really comes down to me having to see exactly what they talk about. We've seen, Sonic fighting these Iblis creatures, and that stuff is fine. Obviously I like when it's robots and stuff like that, but I think it's okay if I want to go outside of the norm occasionally. Sonic's been fighting robots for the past 10 plus years, so to go back to something more organic, it's not the worst. So again, it really comes down to what we'll have to see what the enemies look like. But no problems for me so far. What could you buy in the Tower Shop? Source: 3 things: the aforementioned spin cycle, lightspeed dash, and the stomp attack. Oh, by the way, all of the UI tools were just Force's assets, so obviously a placeholder. So there will be a shop in the game, and this isn't something totally new. We've seen Sonic games that had shops like this where you could buy abilities many times, like in Sonic 06, Sonic Generations, Sonic Unleashed. We've seen this type of stuff before, and the only worry I have is that I really hope that when you start the game, that the base Sonic you have isn't completely underpowered. Because I know this is going to be an open world game, so I assume it's going to be a long game. And every time Sonic Team makes a long game, it's not because the adventure is long, it's because they inhibit your ability to go faster by inhibiting a power you have. So I really hope, even though there's going to be a shop, I really hope that the base Sonic you start with isn't going to feel completely naked. I do think it's a little weird that the spin cycle is, going to be locked behind the store. I mean, I feel like that's something Sonic could just do naturally. I do know the lightspeed dash, that is usually bought in the store, even though it should be in Sonic's main natural moveset. I guess they want to go back to like how it was in Adventure where it's a power up, or back in 06 trying to buy it from the store. So that's fine, I guess. The stomp attack, I feel like that's another one that should just be his basic moveset. But again, this is nothing too crazy, nothing really out of the norm regarding Sonic games. So again, it sounds cool that we will have multiple abilities, and I really hope that there is way more to the shop than just these 3. I'm sure there is. This was just, a demo that this person played, but I'm wondering what other abilities they will put in the game. Let me know in the comments what abilities you guys want Sonic to have in Sonic Frontiers. How were the enemies? Source: well, I thought the combat was oversimplified. I was actually very impressed with the enemy variety. There was a rock monster and a Lionel ripoff that I swear looked like it was ripped straight out of Breath of the Wild. The AI was also surprisingly well done. If you walk slowly around the grass, enemies will have a harder time finding you. Bigger enemies will chase you around the environment. I do like the sound of that. I did like in games like Sonic Heroes, the enemy variety that we had, between the big enemies, the egg pawns, the flying ones. So I'm happy to see that there seems to be a good amount of enemy varieties in this. Regarding the enemies art direction, as we mentioned, we don't know what they look like yet, so it's gonna come down to being able to visually see that and what our thoughts are when that time comes. But regarding having a lot of enemy varieties, I think that's a good thing, and I hope that regarding the combat being oversimplified, I hope that they make it where there's a bit more to it than that. I know regarding a lot of Sonic games, a lot of it is just homing attacking a lot of them until it feels like the enemies had enough. So again, not too surprising, and I think we actually talked about this in a past leak regarding something else that someone mentioned where it's just button mashing, which is just like homing attacking over and over again. That's something that Sonic games do a lot. So I hope that they do add more to it regarding the abilities in the shop, where Sonic could use the stomp or the bounce bracelet or do some sort of attack to destroy these enemies in a different way that isn't just button mashing. Level design, this is going to be a big one. Source: I thought the level design for the platforming / puzzle challenges to be decent, though very simple. No idea how much of this will be in the final game. Felt traditional in the Sonic sense. Apologies if that's vague. So this is something I've mentioned that needs to be really honed in on for this game, especially the level design. I think the hub world, the open world, needs to be fun to traverse. It needs to have loops and corkscrews. It needs to be fun to traverse as Sonic in an open world. world, because if not, then what was the point of making an open world in a Sonic game anyways? I mentioned this in my live stream last night, but when I imagine Sonic in an open world game, I think of the Sonic CD opening, and that is what I want to play. I want to be in an open world that was designed around Sonic's abilities. I mentioned this in my past videos for Sonic Rangers. I don't want to be pushing blocks as Sonic. I don't want to be doing slow stuff. I don't want to have platform that's like in Sonic Colors where it's very blocky. I want it to be curvy. I want there to be speed. I want the challenges and the puzzles to be designed around Sonic's moveset and his character. But in the end, regarding that stuff, I just really hope that Sonic Team focuses on making fun and challenging platforming puzzles that is fun to traverse as Sonic and isn't like a pace breaker. Did any of the Sonic dialogue stand out to you? Source: it was all flavored text, except for one line. Sonic makes a note about how the environment is not feeling right, and he immediately believes Eggman has something to do with this, alluding to the cyberspace thing possibly being nothing but illusions. That's all I could extrapolate from it anyways. And this is actually big for me, because what this is telling me is, oh my god, is there continuity? Because the last game we had was dealing with nothing but illusions. You know, people didn't know for sure what they were seeing was real or not, thanks to the Phantom Ruby. Obviously, Sonic Forces didn't really go far too deep into that, and I wish they did. What it seems to be here is Sonic might be thinking this might have something to do with the Phantom Ruby or Infinite. So I feel like the big bad guy in this game is definitely not going to be Eggman, but for Sonic Frontiers, I do know in the final boss, one of the playtesters did mention that the Infinite main theme was playing and it could have been just a placeholder. But it did have me questioning whether Infinite would return. I don't think so, because again, that involves there being continuity in the series, which Sonic Team does not like to do. But the fact that Sonic is referencing possible illusions that he's seeing to make sense of this cyberspace thing happening in the game does make me believe that they might be doing a little bit of a connection to Forces here, and that's not a bad thing if they decide to do that. Are they actually going to do that and go all the way with it? I don't know. We'll have to wait to see. How would you assess the combat? Source: very simple, probably too simple. You said those 4chan posts called it button mashy, and that's an apt comment. I have a feeling it'll become more complex as you get more moves/upgrades, but in the present demo, you could spam the homing attack, but Sonic could use a flurry of punches and kicks. Finishers on bigger enemies had a slow motion effect, aka Breath of the Wild. So I did mention this already. I know that button mashy is usually the constant homing attack, but as I mentioned, I hope when you get more moves and more upgrades that, you know, obviously it's not going to be as button mashy, and that there's a bit more to it regarding the combat, as I mentioned beforehand. So since I already talked about it, let's just go right back into the next one. Next question: any idea on the budget of the game? Source: I'm not giving that kind of information because it's highly sensitive. But a game like this, with the scope it has, it is not going to be cheap. Given the photorealistic visuals I've seen so far, and based off of what I've got to go on, it's gonna be in the high millions. Not counting the marketing or the expensive CGI they're doing with Marza. This is going to have to be a multi-million seller just to break even, especially given with how long it's taking. This cannot bomb. And that is really big, and I'm really happy that this person is saying that, because I've been saying that for a long time. Sega's been doing a lot of budget titles with Sonic as of recently. A lot of games like Forces was only $40. I'm not saying that the game was priced wrong. I think $40, you know, is whatever for that game, but I didn't want a cheap experience. I want a game that feels like it's grand in scope and was given quality, kind of like how Unleashed was. I think Unleashed was really the last full-priced mainline Sonic game, I believe. I know Generations was, I think, $50, and I don't know if Colors was full price when it released. I don't remember. It probably was. I'm not quite sure. You guys will let me know in the comments. But I want to have a game that feels like it is from the current gen. I feel like Forces didn't do that. I feel like Generations at the time didn't really do that a whole lot. And I know Lost World definitely didn't do that, and Sonic Boom didn't either. I wanted a Sonic game that feels like it's current gen and made for the current consoles, and it sounds like they are doing just that. This is going to be a big budget game, and they want this to do well, and I think this is great that they're doing that, because they have the Sonic movie coming out soon. So to have this coming out around the time, you know, well, they're going to have Sonic movie come out, and they're probably going to be marketing this game around that time. That's great, because you're going to have more people knowing about the Sonic brand, more people jumping into the game series. This is the time to make a big budget game and to really make it big, make a really good first impression. And even though you're going to be spending a lot to make this game happen, it's going to be worth it, because if the quality is there, people will stick around. I'm really happy. It sounds like Sega and Sonic Team are doing just that. They're making a big budget game. This is not going to be those low budget games we've been getting for the last 10 years. They're going to put their all into this, and I'm really happy to hear that. Question, how did Sonic look? Source, this is probably the best he's looked in about a decade. I almost thought they threw the Unleashed model in there for a second. It definitely isn't his Forces model. I played that garbage many times throughout its development, and this was much more in line with the older games. He is animated well, he has plenty of his usual idle animations, and he's got the usual modern edge that you'd come to expect. The CG trailer is accurate to how he will look. For the Switch version, no idea. That is fantastic to hear. The one thing I've been, that I haven't liked is how they've been animating Sonic in the games. In Forces, he was completely static. He didn't even blink in Forces. He had no idle animation, which is absolutely absurd. Sonic was known for that. His cockiness back in the 90s, one of the things that gave him personality was him tapping his foot and looking at you at the camera, checking his watch. His other animations were big in the gaming community. So the fact that they're kind of bringing it back and they're really utilizing Sonic's character this time around, as they should, I'm happy to hear that. Again, this does sound like something not from the past decade, but something from the older games, and that is fantastic to hear. That's something I feel like they had to go back to. They then asked about DLC, and this is what they had to say. One thing I'll tell you guys is that these games being made now take like 5 to 6 years on average this generation. There's no doubt in my mind that this game will be treated as a platform for a good while, like pretty much every other open world game in this era. Heck, even Nintendo is doing it now. Developers are turning to long-term DLC plans in order to recoup costs on these very expensive games. I'd be stunned if there isn't an expansion pack / season pass announced soon after or even before the game launches. Now, if you guys have been around my channel, you guys know my thoughts on DLC and season passes can be a bit mixed. Not to say that's a bad thing. I think adding more content after a game has been out is a fantastic idea. In fact, I feel like games like TSR could have absolutely done well with DLC, but regarding how they've handled DLC recently, it does make me worried. If you guys remember Supersonic and Forces, they were going to make us pay for that, something that was clearly in the game, in the files, and they just locked it behind a paywall soon after its release. I think practices like that is bad, but if they really want to make more money, make a DLC worth a damn. And that's not me saying gut the game of certain stuff and to wait to give it to us later in pieces. That's not what I'm saying. When the game comes out, it needs to be able to stand on its own, a proper title that has a lot of meat to it. If you want to add to the game months after or years later because you guys designed stuff after the fact, that's perfectly fine, Sega and Sonic Team, but do not gut stuff from the game to give it to us and sell it to us in pieces, because if you do that, we will find out about it, and if that happens, we're not going to be happy. So if you want to do DLC and stuff like that, that's fine, that's okay. If you want to bring more life to the game after the fact, I implore you to do that, but do it correctly. Question, were there any interesting lines that stuck out to you? Source, besides that one of Sonic being suspicious of Eggman, nothing else. Tails is mentioned in passing, but it was nothing interesting. That's kind of like whatever, to be honest with you, but it does bring a question that I do hope that, I know from what we've heard, it does sound like we're only going to be playing as Sonic, which nothing new, that's something we've been having to deal with for so long now, and I do think that is unfortunate. But let me know what you guys think if we were able to play as other characters in this game. I do wish, if it's an open world, that they wouldn't squander the opportunity to not play as Tails. Maybe that'd be a good idea for a DLC, having like an episode Tails, like kind of like what you guys did with episode Shadow and Forces, but make it more than 5 minutes long. Question, is there another game compared to Rangers, which is Frontiers now, that isn't Breath of the Wild? The source says, good question. In terms of platformers, I would say 2 interesting games that it is strikingly similar to are the levels of Banjo-Kazooie, and interestingly enough, Sonic Jam's Sonic World. You're given a multitude of tasks to do in order to get the thing you need next to progress. And I think that's interesting that they mentioned Sonic Jam, Sonic World. That's something I never played and I actually want to. But if it does remind me of that, I think that's fine. But again, I want the open world to be more than that. I actually didn't play Banjo-Kazooie, so I wouldn't know too much regarding that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments for them to compare it to Banjo-Kazooie, what you guys think about that for Sonic in an open world. But again, as long as the open world is fun to traverse as Sonic and it matches Sonic's playset, that's all I could ask for. Question, how big do you think the world was? Source, huge, gigantic. I can't underestimate that. I got a tiny glimpse of the map for just a moment, but what we saw was definitely just a small cutout of the area. I wasn't able to find out or run out to other points to see if there was any other biomes, but I doubt you'll be in the same place throughout the entire game. Size-wise, given that Sonic's movement is obviously much quicker than, say, Link or Gerald, I'd say it's going to be the size of Breath of the Wild or Skyrim's world, at the very least. Again, the budget of a game like this is astronomical. Is there any pictures or screenshots or something that you could compare the demo's visuals to? The source then links to a picture from Sonic Unleashed, and I think that's fantastic. If it does look like the open ring tutorial world of Sonic Unleashed, that grassy hill area, I think that's great. I hope the art direction isn't too jarring compared to Sonic, as they mentioned before. They said realistic lighting and global illumination looks similar to that. Grass textures as well. Hedgehog Engine 2 is the talk of the town. It could run circles around Unleashed with its capabilities. And I'm happy to hear that. I did hear that Hedgehog Engine 2 wasn't used to its full potential in Forces, so I hope they really go out and do what they can with the Hedgehog Engine 2 and really showcase what it can do in this game. They're going to ask if there's a Breath of the Wild moment, and the source says, oh yes, there is a Breath of the Wild moment. There is a cliff area that Sonic could stand on and look over the surrounding area. It was beautiful, but it was very blatant ripoff of the current trend. And that is something we've seen a lot of, and people joke about a lot whenever a character is looking over a cliff and you get a panoramic view of the entire world. This game definitely has that, and I think, again, it is really funny that they are doing that. I don't know what to think of it. There's nothing really to think of. It seems kind of harmless, but again, I hope that this game isn't just doing this because it is the trend. I hope they're doing it because it is the next evolution for Sonic in the future. They go on to ask about renders, and the source says that Sonic running around in the new environment looked stunning. That Sonic looks really good. Looks nothing like the overly serious Sonic Forces ones. These reminded me more of Generations and strangely 06. Vibrant colors mixed with the realistic background. And I think that's actually really cool that that's the case, because again, I didn't like how Sonic was in Forces, and especially as of recently, he wasn't that well animated, and I feel like the models just weren't all that great. So I'm happy to see that they seem to be going back to how they were back in Generations and even 06. Even though I wasn't a huge fan of the model in 06, I think he was just a little bit too lanky there. I will take it over what we've been getting now. So the fact that it seems like they completely redid the model and they did it from the ground up and it's fantastic and it's animated well, I'm really happy to hear that as much as before. The next question was regarding controls. The source says, as for controls, I'm surprised you didn't ask sooner, but this is why I'm fairly certain that there's very little Forces DNA in this game. It doesn't feel anything like that at all. Forces controlled like total garbage, and I made sure to tell them that. He felt really good to control. The boost era controls seem like something they've done away with, and it makes sense as to why. The way Sonic functions in something like, say, Unleashed is not something that would work in an explorative open world. You'd need a full 360-degree control of Sonic, and that's what they've given him here. I wouldn't say it's adventure because I honestly can't remember the last time I played it, but it's definitely not Lost World either. I'd put it somewhere in between those. I noticed that Sonic would slightly pick up speed when running downhill, but I need to play it again to check. He acted appropriately to the terrain that I remember, because there are challenges where he could run on walls. Can't compare how fast he was moving to the previous games, but he seems to have the same speed in the cyberspace levels. And I am so happy to hear that. That was one of the best things I've heard all day, because, you know, I mentioned this in this video here for what we need for Sonic Rangers to work, which is now Sonic Frontiers. I mentioned that they would need to make changes. You know, the boost formula was great for what it was. It worked great in Unleashed and Generations. Forces it wasn't. It was just a linear hallway, and it was just not that great. But one of the things that hurt me the most is they had this super fast character like Sonic the Hedgehog with this amazing moveset, unlike anything, like any other, you know, video game character at the time. And they limit you so much in these hallways. And the fact that we now have this open world, I said they would need to make changes because there was no way this boost formula game that they have now would work in this game. Now, we do know in the cyberspace levels that they mentioned here that he does control roughly the same as he did in Generations, which is totally fine. For the open world, there would need to be changes to the momentum and the physics, and it sounds like they did exactly that, and I'm really happy to hear that because, again, if you're going to have an open world, Sonic will need to turn, damn it. He needs to turn. He can't turn like a tank anymore, so I'm happy to hear they made changes to it. I'm wondering how the controls really are and if they are good, because again, I can't say for sure they would be good, and I can't really take Sonic Team at their word that it's good because, again, all the past years of controls speak louder than words to me. So if what they're saying here is true, that they refined the controls and Sonic controls well in 3D and he has momentum going downhill, fantastic, fantastic. All the elements are there. Now it all comes down to the level design and how they designed levels in the world based around said moveset. There is one last thing they go on to mention here. They did say that there is no Wisp in sight. You got boost energy by collecting rings. And if you ever ran out of any, this ghost lady would come up and give you more, and she would yell Sonic you. So yeah, for all you guys that just don't like the Wisps, and for good reason, honestly, because I feel like they overstayed their welcome as well, that's a good sign that they still not seem to be in this game so far. But yeah, that is really all the main stuff I want to talk about regarding this leak for Sonic Frontiers. And again, the main reason I talk about this stuff is because I feel like this stuff is legitimate, and because of the trademark they did today, I feel like this gives leaks like this more legitimacy because of the fact that they mentioned Frontiers way back then. So yes, in the end of the day, this game is sounding great. I hope that they go on to really refine the controls and really focus on the gameplay aspect of the game, because that is where Sonic has been lacking for so long. It sounds like it's a big budget game. It sounds ambitious. It sounds something different for the Sonic series, and I'm happy to hear that. I hope they don't borrow too much from Breath of the Wild. I want the game to have its own identity. I don't want it to seem like they're going with the fad. I don't want them to be doing what the trend is. I want them to be doing this because it is good for Sonic, not because it's what everyone else is doing. I mentioned all of this in my past live stream, which if you guys haven't seen my live stream from yesterday where I talk about, Sonic Forces being 4 years old and we went through all my old videos, we talked about, Frontiers a lot. So please go watch that stream if you haven't. It's a lot of fun. But in the end, special thanks to Daki for giving me the transcript of the video officially and for giving me permission to do this. If you guys want to watch the full video of his, I will link it in the description. Please go watch it. He did a great job going over everything. I know I didn't cover everything they talked about. I wanted to talk about the main hitters that you and me probably care the most about. But yes, Sonic Rangers is going to be called Sonic Frontiers, and these leaks seem to give us a good idea of what we can expect in the game. So now it is up to you guys. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about Sonic Frontiers and what you guys expect for the game and what you guys want. With all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Just know that I do have some videos being worked on in the background. I do have a huge project planned. I don't want to talk about it yet, but I do have a huge project planned. It's a huge undertaking, so just bear with me as I continue to work on that. In the meantime, you're going to be getting a lot more streams and such like that, and when news drops, I'll be here. With all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already. I seriously appreciate it. This is the best community that we have here for Sonic the Hedgehog. And with all that said, this is Sam signing out. See you later, procrastinators.